When we talk about World War II, we often picture soldiers on the front lines, tanks rolling through ruined cities, and battles that shaped the fate of nations. But behind all of that, far from the gunfire and the trenches, there was another war being fought. A quieter one. A human one. The war experienced by millions of civilians who suddenly became migrants forced to leave everything behind in order to survive. This is the story of those people. Women, children, the elderly, entire families who never planned to travel anywhere, yet were pushed into motion by one of the greatest catastrophes in human history. Imagine the morning it all began for them. Dawn breaks. The streets are quiet. And then, almost instantly, everything changes. News spreads through neighborhoods like a shockwave. The war has started. Evacuation orders are coming. People step outside with disbelief on their faces, feeling time accelerate in a way they've never felt before. Just the day before, life was ordinary school. Work, family dinners, errands, small arguments, small joys. And now, they have only hours to decide what part of their lives will fit into a single bag, and what must stay behind forever. Families tear open trunks and drawers, letters, documents, family photographs. Each item carries the weight of memory. But there's no room for memories. Not anymore. People grab whatever seems essential. A blanket, a winter coat bread, a child's toy. And then the moment comes when the suitcase simply won't close. Decisions must be made. Hard ones. Final ones. Train stations become a world of their own, crowded, chaotic, tense. Children cling to their mothers. Men try to comfort their families while hiding their own fear. Soldiers shout instructions over the noise. The air fills with smoke, steam, and urgency. When the trains finally start moving, people press their hands against the windows, trying to capture one last image of their homes. Homes they may never see again. And then begins the journey, one of the longest and hardest parts of their lives. The train cars are packed so tightly that turning around feels like a luxury. The smell of damp wood, coal smoke, and human exhaustion fills the air. Days blend into nights. Food is scarce, water is rationed. Children cry not because they're misbehaving, but because they're hungry. On the rare stops the train makes, people rush outside breathing deeply, stretching their backs, trying to grasp even a few seconds of space and sky before being swallowed again by the cramped interior. Sometimes the journey becomes dangerous. Trains are attacked from the air. Bombs fall nearby. People flatten themselves to the floor, holding their children close, hoping the next explosion won't be the last sound they hear. But in these harsh, suffocating conditions, something remarkable happens. People begin helping one another. Strangers share food. A mother hands her last slice of bread to a child that isn't hers. Older passengers are supported by younger ones. And slowly, within the rattling wooden walls of these overcrowded train cars, strangers become a community. When evacuees finally reach the interior regions far from the front lines, they find a different world. A world without explosions, without soldiers marching through the streets, but also a world that isn't prepared for them. Housing is improvised. Old school buildings, abandoned clubs, half-finished factories, and long wooden barracks become temporary homes. A barrack is a single hallway of beds and makeshift dividers, hard wooden planks for mattresses, thin walls that let in the cold, windows that don't quite shut. Privacy doesn't exist. Personal space becomes a memory. Food is limited. The daily ration barely covers survival. Families stretch their meals, watering down soups, splitting pieces of bread into the thinnest slices. Parents pretend they're not hungry so their children can eat a little more. And everyone works because work means survival. Women step into industrial jobs, assembling parts for tanks, planes, and machinery. Their hands crack from the cold. Their faces grow pale from long shifts. Yet they show up every morning, because the war doesn't pause for exhaustion. Teenagers, barely old enough to be in high school, take on adult responsibilities in farms, warehouses, and factories. Childhood ends abruptly. They don't complain. They can't afford to. Schools still exist, but not as we imagine them. Lessons happen in cramped rooms with barely any light. Children sit on wooden boxers instead of desks. Paper is scarce. Teachers, many of whom are evacuees themselves, teach without textbooks, sometimes without chalk. But learning becomes a lifeline, a way to remind the next generation that there is still a future worth preparing for. Letters from the front are treasures fragile, thin pieces of paper that hold the most powerful emotions. When the mail carrier arrives, conversations stop. If the letter says a loved one is alive, hope spreads through the room. If it's a death notice, the entire barrack falls silent. People gather around the grieving family, offering tea, blankets, a caring hand. In moments of loss, they aren't neighbors. They're one family. And then, finally, when the war ends, the long journey back begins. People return to places that don't feel like home anymore. Some find only rubble where their houses once stood. Others discover overgrown yards, burned streets, or neighborhoods that no longer exist. They walk slowly, trying to orient themselves, looking for anything familiar: a fence, a tree, a corner of a building. Some cry from relief, others from pain, most from both at the same time. But they rebuild, brick by brick, board by board, family by family. They plant gardens, repair roofs, restore walls, and search for relatives who might still be alive. They rebuild not only their houses, but their lives. The story of wartime migrants is not just a story of suffering. It's a story of endurance, of resilience, of human connection in the darkest times. They didn't fight with weapons, but they fought every single day for survival, for dignity, for the future. There are many kinds of heroes in wartime. Some wear uniforms, others carry suitcases. Some fight on the battlefield, others fight to protect their children from hunger and cold. But all of them shape history, and the migrants of World War II, those millions who traveled across continents with nothing but hope and determination, are among the greatest of them.